Welcome back for part 2 of making Asterix and Obelix. We're jumping right in this time. No intro, no special nothing. Here we go. For Obelix, I started out with a Mad Hatter Ever doll head and cut out a skull cap, cut out incisions in her eyes, and her ears came off as well. I then poured hot glue into the front of the face to make it stiffer and easier to sculpt on. When sculpting his face, I referenced the cartoon, and he had a big nose and little apple cheeks, and I tried to replicate that the best I could. I then painted it in the base skin color and did what I did on Asterix, doing a whole bunch of shadows and blush and skin imperfections, all with acrylic paint. It's very fun to do. His eyebrows were also black, just like Asterix, and I gave him black lines around his eyes to make them have more dimension and pop. Next was onto the wig cap. I took an old t-shirt material and draped it over the head and covered it with a bunch of glue. I found that my finger is best for getting the glue really into the fabric. Set that aside to dry and then cut it to shape. Then, starting on grabbing the hair, I got this really bright orange color and just started brushing the yarn out and snipping it and gluing it onto the cap with hot glue. I started by going around the edge, cutting it as I went, and his hairstyle is just short with 2 braids in the front, so it was quite easy to do. Since I couldn't find a reference picture of him without his helmet on, I just decided to do a middle part as that would make braiding easier. The reason I'm cutting it as I go is I am extremely lazy and hate brushing out yarn, so if it's a short hairstyle, I will cut as I go and use the little extra bits to layer the wig. Also, to make it look neater and hide the edge of the wig, I tucked down the hair and glued it onto the inside of the cap. And stuck his head on a pike, clamped the pike to my work desk. And this should show you how much I film videos at the same time. You can see Raven in the background. But his head didn't fit on the pike, so I put it on a paintbrush and tied it to the pike. I then added the long strands, started braiding. I just sealed the ends with hot glue and repeated it on the other side. And then razored the ends to make it look nice. And that's the hair done. Onto the mustache. He was starting to look like a creepy old toothless man. I was actually making Asterix and Obelix around the same time, so I didn't figure out that the hot glue doesn't work for adhering the mustache to the paint. So I used it to shape the mustache and mold it into the shape on the face, but then I actually glued it on with tacky glue. Now onto the helmet. I wrapped his head in aluminum foil and started sculpting. I just used gray Sculpey clay. What was nice is the helmet didn't have to be perfectly smooth, so I just put that in the oven and started trimming down the edges to make it look better. No sanding required at all. And then covered the helmet in my silver nail polish to make it really shiny. And then weathered it with black and scratched stuff into it with my X-Acto knife. I also textured the horns with the X-Acto knife by scratching details into it, and then I used brown paint to weather it. I then tied his hair off with some blue ribbons, which were black ribbons that I painted white and then blue. Which is kind of silly because the ribbons in the cartoon are black, and I eventually just switched them out for black ones since these ones weren't behaving. As you can see, I didn't actually tie them in bows. I just did the bow shape and then put another knot shape on top to create the illusion of a bow. So this body was the, at the time, new Made to Move Kendall, the one that's super buff. I decided it would fit Obelix. So I painted it the same color as the head and started doing the skin imperfection details. But only on the upper torso because he would be wearing pants. The muscles were a liberty that I had taken, but I decided that he also did need to have a big round belly. I did that by filling this necklace pouch with a bunch of fluff and maneuvering it onto his belly with a bunch of hot glue. I then tried the duct tape method, the cling wrap tape method for his clothes, but that didn't go to plan. So instead I got a giant plate, traced it, and used just a circle for his clothes. I tried to do a cool snap transition, but I switched hands so it doesn't look as cool. But I hemmed the edges with glue and then just made sleeves for pants, also hemming those with glue. I then made epoxy bases for the eyes out of a mold I bought. Obelix has black eyes in the cartoon, so I decided to look up the actor who played him, and like Asterix, he also had dark brown eyes. They really were staying true to the source material. So that's what I'm giving. Next was the stripes on his pants. It's nothing special in how I attached the pants. I basically just gave him suspenders out of thread that go over his arms. His joints hide it. But I started using this dark blue to get his stripes in. But then I looked at the reference photos and realized his stripes are actually more of a light blue. So I went and fixed that by mixing this blue with some white. I then took this metal ring to be the buckle of his pants. I painted it brown and then covered it with gold. I didn't have the right green color, so I used this very minty green fabric, cut the shape, and then painted it a darker green. Also hemming the edges with glue. I also decided to give him a prop, a giant rock that he's always carrying around. I don't exactly remember why, but I felt it was necessary. I just sculpted it out of tinfoil and clay and then painted it gray. Last are the shoes. I made them the same way as Asterix's, but I taped over the foot to have the right size because Asterix and Obelix's feet are very different sizes. Just cut them out, sew them up, and with that, we are ready to see the final doll. Both of them this time. These dolls were so much fun to make. It was awesome just recreating cartoons that I loved as a kid and still love now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you on my next one. Bye! Psst. Guess what doll I'm doing next? There was a hint in the video. It was pretty obvious.